The architect points directly at Sung Jin-Woo and declares, "The answer lies within you." Right after that, a system window appears before him. The memories within Sung will be unlocked if he accepts. The architect emphasizes, "The choice is in the hands of the S rank hunter." Jin-Woo hesitates for a moment. What kind of memories are these? What has been hidden inside me all this time? After a brief pause, he agrees. In the very next instant, a blinding light surrounds everything around him. The brightness intensifies rapidly, completely consuming his vision, until everything turns black. Jin-Woo feels like he's being torn away from reality, transported to another world, and before his eyes, a terrifying scene unfolds. A horde of monsters charges forward with savage fury. They were countless, an unstoppable army, marching without mercy. But Jin-Woo wasn't physically there. He was watching, like a spirit, just a silent observer of memories long buried. What is this? Why are there so many monsters? He wonders, confused. Suddenly the monsters stop. They all look up toward the sky. Jin-Woo follows their gaze, and his eyes go wide. High above, countless portals are opening all at once. The sky darkens, filled with overwhelming energy. Colossal creatures emerge. Frost elves, elite orcs, goblins, titans, and other horrifying abominations. A chill runs down Jin-Woo's spine. If all of them come through into our world at once, humanity won't stand a chance. But then, a chilling thought hits him. What if humans aren't the real target? Before he can make sense of that idea, something unexpected happens. The portals begin to glow. They weren't just opening, they were shattering. It was a dungeon break. Jin-Woo watches in shock. What is coming out of those? And then, he sees them. Heavenly beings emerge from the broken portals. Their wings resembled those of angels bathed in ethereal light. Their armor gleamed like polished silver, and they wielded majestic spears and swords. Jin-Woo could barely believe his eyes. One of them lifts a trumpet with solemn grace and blows it. The sound that echoes through the air is a declaration of war. The battle begins. The monstrous creatures charge forward in unison, straight into the silver warriors. The clash of weapons thunders across the battlefield. Roars turn into screams of agony. The ground is soaked in blood, a crimson sea. The silver warriors are merciless, powerful. It looks like a massacre. But just when the monsters are about to be completely wiped out, something changes. One by one, the celestial warriors stop. The monstrous army, once a force of terror, now lies defeated in silence. The battlefield is littered with corpses. Silence reigns. But not for long. A colossal shadow rises among the bodies. And then, a voice echoes with commanding power. Rise. Jin-Woo is stunned once again. Before him, the dead begin to move. But they are no longer the same. They've returned as shadow soldiers. Those who had fallen in battle were now rising again, this time to fight for the shadow army against the celestial beings. Jin-Woo locks eyes on the one commanding the resurrection. So, this is the Shadow Monarch? Towering and formidable, the true Shadow Monarch is revealed. Mounted on a spectral horse, clad in black armor that radiates absolute power. This being didn't just command the dead. He gave them a new purpose. Jin-Woo could barely process what he was witnessing. The fallen creatures had returned even stronger, transformed by the shadows. There were too many to count. Compared to him, I'm just a weak shadow. The war ignites again. The resurrected monsters charge fiercely at the winged warriors. This was no longer a one-sided slaughter. Now it was a true clash of titans. Silver blades tore through the shadow soldiers, but they regenerated with astonishing speed. The ground shook with each blow. Beastly roars and war cries mixed with a deafening clash of weapons. And then the tide turns. The Shadow Monarch raises his colossal black sword and charges into the fray. With a single devastating strike, dozens of enemies are cleaved in half. Riding his spectral horse, he surges forward with unstoppable speed and power, breaking through the enemy line like a force of nature. This was true terror made flesh, the Lord of Shadows in action. And then, he activates his ultimate spell, the Monarch's authority. The moment the spell is unleashed, chaos erupts. The celestial beings begin to explode, one after another, as if something were tearing them apart from the inside. Jin-Woo watches, eyes wide. This is the power of the Monarch's authority? The battlefield becomes a scene of pure devastation. The Shadow Soldiers, tireless and seemingly immortal, move like a living storm, tearing through the enemy ranks without mercy. Victory seems certain. But then, they arrive. The Monarch's eyes lock onto something. Meanwhile, in the human world, several hunters gather before the towering double dungeon gate. Among them are Choi Jong-in, the ultimate soldier, Cha Hai-in, Woo Jin-chul, and other members of the Hunters Guild. Choi Jong-in stares at the gate and says, "The magical energy coming off this thing is insane. They said Hunter Sung Jin-Woo is inside, right?" Woo Jin-chul nods in confirmation, but Cha Hai-in frowns, visibly disturbed. No, this massive energy definitely isn't coming from Sung Jin-Woo. If it wasn't from him, then who? Choi Jong-in looks at the gate again and mutters, "A double dungeon. Looks like we're finally going to find out if the rumors were true." Then adds, "We owe a lot to Hunter Sung Jin-Woo." At that moment, Woo Jin-chul recalls a conversation he had with Jin-Woo. He remembers Jin-Woo saying that he wasn't the one who closed the double dungeon the first time. If that was true, then why had he returned here? This can't just be a coincidence. Suddenly, the gate opens with a thunderous roar. Choi Jong-in's eyes go wide in shock. What the hell happened in here? They move in. What they find is utter devastation. Broken statues scattered everywhere, and in the back, a colossal statue of a god lies toppled. Woo Jin-chul whispers in disbelief, so it was true. There really were statues here. Even a god statue. But suddenly, a sinister voice echoes through the chamber. Well, well. What do we have here? I don't remember inviting any humans to this place. The architect rises. His body is severely damaged, but one arm remains intact, and his gaze burns with hatred. This time, he would not let them leave alive. The hunters from the guild are left speechless. A monster? That talks? Wait, is he speaking our language? The architect sneers with disdain. Then, with a single word, he imposes his will. Silence. His presence is suffocating. You have disturbed the king's rest. The hunters glance at each other, confused. The king? Woo Jin-chul stands frozen. A powerful magical aura surrounds him, his eyes glowing as if he were accessing forgotten memories. The others don't understand what's happening. Woo Jin-chul, what are you doing? Snap out of it! But before anyone can react, a hunter is struck. His body is sliced in half before he can even move. Moments later, more fall. With a single motion, the architect plunges the chamber into chaos. Cha Hai-in sharpens her senses, trying to keep up with the impossibly fast movements of the creature. But the architect doesn't stop. He steps toward the fallen bodies and coldly announces, "You will be the first sacrifice for the king." The hunter's eyes widen in horror. This cruel villain wasn't just killing out of rage, he was offering them as tribute to the Shadow Monarch, Sung Jin-Woo. Meanwhile, the mystery behind the war of the past continues to deepen. Amid a battlefield completely devastated, the original Shadow Monarch stood tall, a commanding figure at the center of chaos. He had just annihilated the army of the winged warriors. Sung Jin-Woo watched everything closely, absorbing every fragment of the awakened memories flooding his mind. Then, something unexpected happens. Two massive portals open before the monarch. One glows with a bluish light, the other with a fierce crimson glow. Suddenly, banners begin to rise from each portal, held high by intimidating standard bearers. They were the war flags of other monarchs, waving in the wind like a clear signal of war. From the blue portal, a colossal demonic army marches forward, radiating a terrifying aura that makes the very air tremble. At the front of the infernal horde comes Baran, the demon king. Jin-Woo instantly recognizes the banners. They belong to the clans Hikado, Paitos, Garchi, and Hadir, the last being the same clan that Igris once belonged to. But that was only the beginning. From the red portal, a creature of epic proportions emerges. A giant white wolf with glowing red eyes, and a savage aura dripping with murderous intent. Around him, monstrous beasts and wild creatures charge forward like a living wave of destruction. It was Raken, the beast monarch. The two monarchs approach, their gazes locked on the shadow monarch. Mounted on his spectral horse, the monarch stares back in silence. What did this unexpected meeting mean? Were they here to declare war? Or something else? Meanwhile, back in the double dungeon, in the human world, the Architect's massacre continues without mercy. The A-rank hunters groan in agony, wounded by the ancient creature's brutal attacks. The guild's healers race against time, trying desperately to keep the injured alive. Choi Jong-in takes charge of the situation. "Get the wounded out of the front lines, now!" he shouts urgently. But the real terror was still ahead. Before the hunters' eyes, the statues begin to move again. Even shattered to pieces, they reconstruct themselves, preparing to strike once more. And then, even the dreaded god statue begins to rise again. Its cold, empty gaze seems to pierce the souls of the intruders. Watching with a triumphant air, the architect lets out a cruel smile. "My creations will fight until they are completely obliterated." His voice echoes through the chamber, dripping with mockery. "Consider yourselves honored, for you'll bear witness to the rebirth of our king." He pauses briefly, then adds with contempt, "That is, if any of you are still alive by then." Suddenly, the god statue's eyes begin to glow with an intense light. A sinister smile forms on its stone face. Danger is imminent. Choi Jong-in, sharp and experienced, senses what's coming. It's a magical attack of catastrophic scale. "Everyone, move! Get out of the way, now!" he yells. Panic sweeps through the group. The terror is just beginning. The statue opens its eyes wide and unleashes a colossal beam of energy. The magic blast incinerates everything in its path, turning the ground to ash and obliterating everything nearby. Choi Jong-in dives to the side at the last second, the searing heat passing just inches from him. But he doesn't waste a second. Without hesitation, he focuses his strength and channels all his magic power. "This is our chance." Raising his hands, he fires a powerful spell directly at the head of the titanic statue. The explosion echoes through the double dungeon with a thunderous boom. "Take the opening and destroy the stone statues!" Choi Jong-in commands with authority. Immediately the hunters charge forward. Woo Jin-chul leaps with precision, reaching the statue's face, and then he delivers a brutal strike. His fist slams into the creature's face with devastating force. But nothing happens. The statue remains completely unharmed. Not even a scratch. Woo Jin-chul falls back, stunned. How is this possible? I didn't even leave a mark. The creature's durability was beyond anything he expected. Before he can react, the statue's head is obliterated by an explosion. It was Choi Jong-in, providing backup with his destructive magic. "Their defense is off the charts," he says, tense. "Stay sharp." If even an S-rank hunter couldn't inflict physical damage, what could they possibly do? To make matters worse, the statues also seemed resistant to magic. The hunters from the guild quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. "Mr. Choi, taunt isn't working on them. Advanced telekinesis isn't effective either." A chill runs down Jong-in's spine. They were running out of options. If nothing worked, how could they win? Then he turns and sees Sung Jin-Woo, still standing motionless. His expression calm, completely detached from the chaos around him. "We need to wake up Hunter Sung Jin-Woo," Jong-in exclaims. He wasn't sure if Jin-Woo was hypnotized or trapped in some kind of mental trance. But one thing was certain. Waking him up was their only shot. Without hesitation, Choi Jong-in gathers his energy and fires a blazing fireball directly at Jin-Woo. If he wouldn't snap out of it on his own, the impact would do it by force. But just as the spell is about to hit him, something unexpected happens. The attack is completely blocked. An invisible barrier rises in front of Jin-Woo, shielding him. Jong-in's eyes widen in disbelief. What the? Then, a familiar voice echoes through the chamber. The architect smiles with contempt. He must not be awakened. His voice is like a dark omen. Something monumental was about to unfold, and no one could stop it. The architect steps forward, fury blazing in his eyes. "How dare you disturb the king's rest?" he roars. His target is clear. Choi Jong-in, the S-rank mage. The strike seemed inevitable, but before it lands, 3 A-rank hunters rush in to intercept the enemy. With coordinated precision, Woo Jin-chul and the others block the architect's path. "Cha Hai-in," Jin-chul yells. "Leave him to us. Go wake up Sung Jin-Woo." Cha Hai-in doesn't hesitate. In a flash, she dashes toward Jin-Woo. But while her body moved in the present, Sung Jin-Woo's mind was somewhere else entirely. He was still immersed in the memories of the Shadow Monarch. Inside the vision, the battlefield unfolded before his eyes. The shadows were holding back a combined assault from 2 monarchs. Demons and wild beasts attacked in unison with overwhelming force. Their goal was clear: annihilate the Shadow Monarch. Jin-Woo watched every detail, trying to comprehend the full scale of the battle. No matter how many times they were destroyed, the shadows kept coming back. If he were in the monarch's place, his mana would have run out long ago. But this being, he has infinite mana. Even while sustaining an entire army of undead? Sung Jin-Woo could barely hide his amazement. Meanwhile, the demons and beasts that had come from the portals continued to slaughter the shadow troops mercilessly. This wasn't a typical battle. If it were just monsters versus celestial warriors, they wouldn't fight with such fury. Then, was the Shadow Monarch not on the side of the monsters? If that were true, there could only be one explanation. This was a civil war among the monarchs themselves. Jin-Woo finally understood. On the battlefield within the memory, the Shadow Monarch's spectral horse was covered in wounds, pierced by swords and spears. The ground was littered with corpses, both enemy and ally. And then Jin-Woo faced the truth with clarity. This wasn't just a battle. It was a war between former comrades. His gaze shifts to the heart of the battle. There, standing face to face with the Shadow Monarch, was a fearsome opponent. Baran, the Demon King, the Monarch of White Flames. He had already been defeated. His body staggered, barely able to stay upright. The Shadow Monarch slowly walks toward him. His eyes burned with a mix of rage and sorrow. It seems Our war ends today. He stops in front of his old ally and asks with a cold voice, "Why did you betray me?" Baran smirks, even on the verge of death, his gaze full of contempt. "What a shame," he says with a sneer. "It was the perfect chance to take you out." The Shadow Monarch doesn't look away. He wants to understand. Why? Why the betrayal? What was the true reason behind all of this? But Baran only laughs. Then he whispers something in an unknown language. The monarch frowns. Those words didn't belong to any known tongue. It was a hidden code, understood only by those who bore the title of monarch. Without hesitation, the monarch unleashes his ultimate power, the monarch's authority. The magic is instant. Baran's body is pulled by an invisible force, dragged straight into the Shadow Monarch's grip. He grabs him firmly by the neck. Even with death looming, Baran keeps whispering, muttering cryptic words, and then it ends. With a single decisive motion, the Shadow Monarch executes his judgment. Baran falls, lifeless. Jin-Woo watches everything, but something feels off. There was something strange in Baran's eyes. Those eyes. He had seen them before. But where? Jin-Woo tries to recall. The Shadow Monarch releases the lifeless body and slowly removes his helmet. And then, Jin-Woo sees the face of the enemy. It was Baran. The same one he had fought in the demon castle. What? Why was Baran part of these memories? Confused, Jin-Woo looks at his own hands. And in that moment, the truth hits him. He was inside the Shadow Monarch's body. But when did that happen? How had he not noticed until now? He felt something strange pulsing inside him, now within his body. There were two hearts, one human, and one of shadows. Suddenly, a brilliant light explodes on the horizon of the battlefield. Jin-Woo instinctively turns. The winged beings were launching another attack, and then, as if someone closed a book, the Shadow Monarch's memories come to an end. Meanwhile, in the double dungeon, Cha Hae-in finds herself face to face with a terrifying enemy. The architect watches her with a mocking grin. "You're an interesting hunter," he says with irony. "I want to see how far you can go trying to stop me." Cha Hae-in doesn't flinch. She grips her sword, steady, determined. As an S-rank swordswoman, her movements are swift, precise, and lethal. She charges forward, slicing through the air with her gleaming blade. But the architect blocks each strike with frightening ease. "That's it! Fight to the very end," he taunts, his gaze filled with superiority. Then, a direct hit. The architect's blade slashes her shoulder. Blood drips down. She backs off, pain throbbing through her arm. The architect laughs, amused by her suffering. "Is that it? In the end, you're nothing but disposable pawns on my board." He lets out a theatrical sigh. "So boring. You humans are far too predictable." It didn't matter how hard they fought. Didn't matter how many strategies they used. Fate felt unchangeable. The hunters now understood just how dire the situation was. Choi Jong-in and Woo Jin-chul exchanged tense glances. The power gap was overwhelming. Even A-rank hunters could barely defend themselves. The architect watches the chaos with disgust. "Your pathetic efforts won't change what's already been set in motion. None of you will escape the fate I've written." But then, something happens. A violent impact smashes into the architect's face, forcing him back. The source? Choi Jong-in. The fire mage smiles with confidence. "We have to wake up Jin-Woo. That's our only way out." Cha Hae-in seizes the moment. Wounded, but undeterred, she dashes toward Jin-Woo. But the architect is fast, too fast. In an instant, he's standing in front of her. Cha Hae-in dodges at the last second. The architect's eyes widen in surprise. Interesting, he mutters. But then, something even more unexpected catches his attention. A shadow emerges from Cha Hai-in's body. He narrows his eyes. So that's it. Jin-Woo had hidden shadow soldiers as covert sentinels inside Korea's S-rank hunters. The architect grins, intrigued. According to the rules of this chamber, no one can enter or leave without my permission. He fixes his sharp gaze on Cha Hai-in. Which means the king planted a soldier inside you. How is that even possible? What's your connection to Jin-Woo? Cha Hai-in answers without hesitation. I'm his friend, and we're here to save him. The architect tilts his head slightly, curious. Then he starts laughing. So you're telling me all of this is happening against the king's own will? He sighs, as if he's enjoying the irony. Very well. Nay, I'll give you a gift. His eyes gleam with wicked excitement. Today, a great monarch will arrive in this world, and you'll have the privilege of witnessing it. But then, his grin twists into something darker. However, there's one condition. Everyone else here will die. Immediately, the statues begin to move forward. The massacre seemed inevitable, but before the horror could come true, a deafening crash echoes through the chamber, a brutal impact. Jin-Woo appears. Without hesitation, he slams a powerful punch straight into the architect's face. The enemy is launched across the room, crashing violently against the stone floor. The ground shakes. The hunters watch in stunned silence. The king had awakened. Suddenly, Jin-Woo snaps back to life. With a devastating strike, he shatters the architect's jaw, raw fury behind the blow. Jin-Woo's eyes now glow with a deep, intense purple, the same energy radiating from his new heart. Woo Jin-chul stands frozen, overwhelmed by what he's witnessing. Choi Jong-in lets out a breath of relief, and even Cha Hai-in can hardly believe her eyes. The architect tries to rise, but Jin-Woo stomps hard on his head, grinding it into the stone. Dazed and terrified, the architect cries out, "Wait! You're not the king? Why didn't the king take over your body? How did you keep your consciousness even after receiving the Black Heart?" The plan had been simple. Once the Black Heart was implanted, the Shadow Monarch would take control. But that never happened. Jin-Woo finally understands. That pulsing light in his chest was the Black Heart. Because of it, he now possessed colossal magic power. He activates the title Demon Slayer, granted to those who had witnessed the memories of Baran, the monarch of White Flames. This title now recognized Jin-Woo as its rightful master. With the Black Heart active, his mana skyrockets, an increase of 100,000 points, totaling a staggering 109,433 mana. The architect was in full-blown panic. His plan had failed. Jin-Woo thinks to himself, "There are two things I'm absolutely sure of, judging by this bastard's reaction. First, the effect the Black Heart had on him was completely different from what the architect expected. Second, this heart wasn't a gift. It had another purpose behind it. The memories he absorbed, they weren't everything. Something was still hidden." Jin-Woo locks eyes with the architect and asks firmly, "You said you didn't choose me to be the player. Then what is a player, really? What were you scheming?" The architect goes pale. "Don't tell me, damn you, Shadow Monarch. Do you really think the other monarchs will just leave you alone?" Suddenly, several daggers float around Jin-Woo, summoned by the monarch's authority. He points the blades at the architect. "Answer me." The enemy gives a strange, almost admiring smile. "You exceeded all my expectations. Now I understand why you were chosen." Meanwhile, a chill runs through the hunters. The stone statues, depicting ancient musicians, begin to move. With heavy steps, they spread throughout the chamber, surrounding everyone. The architect smiles maliciously. If you kill me, no one will be able to stop my creations. Even so, are you still willing to destroy me? Sung Jin-Woo's eyes burn with fury. And if I kill you, and then destroy every last one of your statues? The architect scrambles, desperate to argue. If you kill me, I am the architect. And then I'll just go back to being an S-rank hunter? Jin-Woo cuts in with a slight smirk. I've thought about that before. The architect might disappear, but the system you built won't vanish with you, right? The architect's eyes go wide. He tries to use the system to restrict Jin-Woo's powers, but something goes wrong. The system rejects his command. In a whisper, full of dread, he mutters, What's happening? Sung Jin-Woo answers calmly, confidently. Yeah. I figured this day would come. Sung Jin-Woo, the one who would consume the system itself. I promised myself I would surpass all of this. He steps forward. Looks like your system was built wrong. The architect grits his teeth. You bastard! But before he can finish the sentence, every dagger shoots forward at blinding speed, slicing through the air with lethal precision. Sung Jin-Woo lands a single, devastating blow. The impact tears the architect's body in two. At the same time, the daggers, under the monarch's control, reduce the remains to dust. Still, with his final breath, the architect whispers in a prophetic tone, "This wasn't in my predictions." And then, in a fading voice, he utters, "I leave you a prophecy. When pillars of flame hold up the sky, death will come for you." Sung Jin-Woo watches the scene unfold, unmoved. He turns his back, and without looking behind him, he answers, "Let it come." Thanks for watching until the end, and see you in the next video.